And the reason is he wants to show you, hey, you may be down low, you may be stuck, but I'm going to pull through. I'm going to pull you through it because I want to show other people how I saved your life.
Welcome back. I am so excited for today's podcast. We are doing another segment of People of New Life, and we have a special guest here today that is going to tell us her story. I'm so passionate about telling stories because they inspire, they challenge, they encourage. And a lot of you guys really liked the last story of Ken and Victoria. So I'm really excited for this one. I have the privilege of having Vidalia Garcia on the podcast. Vida is an active member of our young adults ministry here at New Life. And she's also part of Blue Island.
Yeah.
Which is exciting. How long have you been at Blue Island?
I think I've been in Blue Island for about to be 7 years, I believe, in April. So that's exciting. Yeah.
Very exciting. That is so cool. We definitely have a lot to talk about. But one, why don't you share a little bit of your background, where you grew up? Like, did you grow up in Blue Island or grew up? Wow, English.
It's okay. I mean, so I actually grew up here, straight from the heart of Chicago. I grew up for the first 5 years of my life right on Archer and Cicero.
Nice.
Before, a certain coffee shop and convenience store was built. It was just Vida living there. Nice. So yeah, I lived there for the first 5 years. It was just me and my parents. And we then moved over to the south side, probably like a few blocks away from Chicago borders.
Nice.
So, and I've been there for about 21 years now on the south side. I am 27 years old.
That's not even that old. I just turned 30 and I'm like, dying.
Oh, you look amazing. Don't even worry about it.
How about siblings? You have siblings?
So there's 4 of us. I'm the oldest out of 4. So it's myself. 5 years later is my sister. Another 5 years later is my brother. And then 3 years later is the youngest. So,
okay.
And there's 2 pets. No, my bad. There's 3.
3 pets. Okay, dogs, cats.
1 dog and 2 cats. Yeah.
Oh, not a cat person.
Oh,
God bless you. Okay, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you came to New Life? So your dad is one of the pastors.
Yeah, he's one of the pastors.
No big secret. That's
not a secret. My father, he runs the Nueva Vida Blue Island location out on the south side. So our congregation is just mainly Spanish right now, but we're hoping that we will blossom and grow an English service one day.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. So would you say you grew up in a Christian home? Or?
So I guess you could say I didn't grow up in a Christian home the way that majority of people did. My father was never a pastor for the longest. He never even saw a calling for it. I actually came to Christ when I was 8, but I had been attending church since 2. So my great uncle, he used to pick me up from my house, take me to church. Obviously, he would bribe me. Like, he would take me to the store afterwards and buy me something.
Of course.
I was like, yeah. But definitely, I've been attending church since then, and I was always a happy, go-giddy girl. So after I'd come home from church, I would tell my parents, hey, we should definitely attend this church. They're going to have a potluck afterwards. And the pastor's like really cool. And my parents are like, she's just a little girl. Leave her alone. Like, don't listen to her.
Yeah.
So I think it took a couple of years, but the Lord did work in our lives. I started attending actually New Life Midway here when I was 6 years old.
Wow.
So that was very fun. And I did everything. I grew up at this church for about maybe 13 years.
Wow.
So I did kids ministry. I did Awana. I did dance.
Yeah. Oh.
I did choir. That's where we met through choir.
Yeah. Way back then.
Way back then. I did about everything that you could here at New Life Midway. And I did. I grew up loving the Lord. I accepted him. I got baptized at 12 years old.
Wow.
So a lot of people were telling me, that's too young and everything. But I knew what I wanted at that time. I knew that I wanted the Lord. I wanted to live for him. And I wanted to show others the love that he gave me. So you could say I grew up somewhat in a Christian home.
Yeah. Nice. Very cool. And tell us a little bit about your story. How did you get here?
So in a car. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, so I guess since I was young, I've always been sick. Never knew exactly why, but I was sick. And throughout the years, it was always hospital visits here and there. It would shake and rattle my parents' faith for sure, always. And not knowing exactly what was wrong with me was the fear. I did not realize any of this till probably a few years ago. None of this actually hit me till now because I was young.
Yeah.
And so about the age of 15, I actually had my very first medical accident. Um, I woke up one night and I had heart palpitations. I started going blurry in the eyes. I could not see anything. My parents rushed me to the hospital. And the moment I got there, the doctors were like, your daughter has a blood pressure of 250 over 180.
Wow.
An average blood pressure is 120 over 80.
Yeah.
So they were very surprised when they said she should have a stroke right now. And I was
Wow.
just laying there like, my heart is just palpitating. That's all that's happening. So since 2011, I was diagnosed with CKD, which is chronic kidney disease, And they did tell me I was at stage 3. So that meant my kidney functionality was about maybe 30%.
And you were how old when they diagnosed you?
About 15.
15. Okay.
Yeah. So after that, I lived life with medications. Had a few trips here and there to the hospital, but nothing big. I kept living my life as normal, coming to church, enjoying everything. But around that time, I think is when I started to actually stumble. I was on fire for the Lord with church, with dance, with missionary trips, with Awana. I loved everything. But the moment I'd come home, it was a different world. I was in high school at that time. I was skipping class. I was letting grades fall. I was hiding boyfriends, which on the side note, I mentioned this last night to my dad as I was going over this. He's like, I thought you said it was only one boyfriend. I was like, oh, did I not mention it was more than one? Yeah, there was a few. So he said, we'll have a talk after you come back. I'm like, yeah, you got it. So that was fun. But definitely, yeah. I was doing things that I guess a typical teenager does. But I was living a double life. I had my church friends, and then I had my friends from the world. So I never let them mix. I was embarrassed. I was. And even in, I think it was 2016. Oh, I can't remember the year. But I went
there.
2013, sorry.
Okay.
I went on my first missionaries trip to Querétaro, and it was amazing. 2 weeks out there, bringing the word of God, working with the kids of the town, sharing the gospel, sharing the salvation. And I was like, man, this is so great. I can't wait to bring it back to Chicago. I get back and I'm back in the same routine of going out, doing stuff I shouldn't be doing. Again, going out with the boyfriends, hiding them from the family. And then on Sunday mornings, being the perfect daughter of like my parents who say, my daughter's the leader of this and this and that. She has mentored 2 people. And I'm like,
this is like such a classic, I can't say classic pastor's kid thing, but
yeah.
I fully
they
relate
had
to
me
this
on
story.
a pedestal. And I was like, let me down. Because it was just too much. It was
probably unintentionally.
It was. And it was the idea of I didn't want to let them down. I didn't want to disappoint them. But I didn't want to let them know exactly what I was struggling through or what I was doing.
Right.
Because I knew, what I'm doing is not bad compared to people who are drinking, people who are doing drugs, girls that are getting pregnant. I'm not doing any of that. I'm still good. And in the back of my mind, I still had God. I would, let's say example, go out with the guy that I just met. But in my mind, I was always like, God is here with me. Maybe he'll change this guy. Yet I still don't share the salvation. I don't share the gospel. But I assume God will do it on his own time, So, high school ends, college begins. a lot more temptations in college. um,
And at this
yeah,
point,
go
you
ahead.
were still just taking the medication,
Just
like
taking the medications. They did say though, like every year that went by, my functionality of the kidneys, they started decreasing. Very
okay.
minimal, but they started to decrease.
Yeah.
So there was no worries in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
On my parents, I guess there were, but on my mind, I had no worries.
Mm.
I always said, God has me. He's going to heal me. God's
Mm.
going to do it in time. So college starts and I start having drinks. I start going to parties.
Mm.
I start hanging out with the wrong crowd, especially at work. I let them influence me.
Mm.
So, you know, I'm still living my double life of like being the perfect daughter on Sundays. We're actually at New Life Oak Lawn by this time.
Mm.
So we were part of the new core team to launch New Life Oak Lawn. I was in a ministry. I was in a girls group. I thought, man, I don't have my life like these girls. My life is perfect.
Mm.
But on the side, I was doing stuff that I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And I
Was
was
there like
cycling.
any thought in your mind that I'm a hypocrite? Or like that wrestle between the tension between wanting to do good and walk in God's ways versus like I have this whole other double life that I'm like living. Did that bother you at all, or were you kind of just numb to it?
It bothered me when I had to teach like the youth group.
Mm.
It bothered me when a girl asked for advice when she's having issues at school. And I would lie through my teeth and say, oh, don't worry. If you keep believing in God, He's going to save you.
Mm.
Or, hey, and I would even be a hypocrite by saying, maybe you shouldn't hang out with those people because they might be a bad influence.
Mm.
Yet Monday morning rolls around and I'm doing the same thing.
Mm.
Um, I think in the back of my mind, I knew I was a hypocrite, but I didn't want to acknowledge it
Yeah.
because I was ashamed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought, if I just repent, God will forget about it and I'll forget about it and it'll be okay. No one needs to know. This is
Yeah.
just between me and God.
Wow.
And so mid-college, my first year of college, midway, I actually get the news from a doctor that my function of the kidneys start to decrease. They're at 15%, about 15%. So, you know, we start testing for transplant. So I get on the transplant list for here in Illinois for kidneys.
So when you
No, go
heard
ahead.
that news of like being put on a list for a transplant, like what were you scared? Were you like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening to me? Or what were you feeling? What were you thinking?
I was scared. I was definitely annoyed.
Interesting.
I was definitely annoyed. I never showed my emotions, but I was definitely annoyed because I was thinking in my head, why are you taking so long, God? I'm doing everything for you. Why have you not healed me before we've gotten to the end zone? Why are you making my parents suffer? Why are you making me suffer? So I was annoyed. I could say I was a little bit mad, but I guess Sunday mornings when I hear the service, I would understand, oh, you know, God will do it on the right time. He'll do it right at the last minute on the 11th hour.
Wow.
That's what I thought.
Man, girl, I would be terrified. I would just be, just my response would have been fear. It's incredible that you're like, oh, like.
So like nothing, everything went over my head. To me, nothing fazed me.
Yeah.
Which now that I look back, I'm like, maybe that's why I cry a lot when I tell my story. Because I'm like, it's all coming in now, the emotion.
Yeah, yeah.
Back then, I didn't want to show the emotion. I wanted to be strong. I wanted to be that girl of like, man, I'm okay. God got me. So they had told me I need a kidney transplant. So now I had people testing for me. My mom, family members, friends from Midway. Everyone was testing. I had 10 people.
Wow.
Everybody came out as not a match. So one of my aunts actually, she tested for me and she was the closest match that they could find. So they set the date for the surgery. It was a Sunday morning and my aunt she actually attends Midway. So Pastor Mark brought her up. They had a photo of me up there and the whole congregation prayed for me.
Wow.
At the time, I was moved. I was like, gosh, like I was crying.
Wow.
They prayed for her. They prayed for me, my family. And I was just very thankful. Um, the surgery was for Thursday. They called me Wednesday and they said, the surgery's off. And I said, what? I was just stunned. I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, we tested your blood again and your body is rejecting her kidney.
Oh,
So
man.
it was basically like, so sorry, but what can you do?
So
Like
you're back on the list.
I'm back on the list.
Wow.
And as I'm waiting for a kidney, the function of my kidney starts to drop more and more. Right now, I'm at 9%.
Wow.
So I start to taste copper in my tongue, and that's like a sign of kidney failure. So that means I need dialysis.
Wow.
So it was December 2016, and I went into surgery to get dialysis. It's like a tube that they place in your stomach, and you can actually do the dialysis from home, which was very convenient for us.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the dialysis. It's about like April, and my friend, actually, another friend, he gets tested. Now they say, you're not a match, but we have this new research that says we can clean your blood out by lowering your system and then clean his blood out and then placing and kind of forcing the kidney in your system.
Oh, wow.
So the way my dad described it is like, so you're trying to put a triangle in a circle shape.
Yeah.
He's like, that doesn't make sense. But we went along with it because we were desperate.
Yeah.
And now that I look back, it doesn't seem like it was the right time. But we were pushing for it, you know? Then May comes around, 2017. And I actually have a stroke. Actually, it was early morning. I had a stroke. I fell into some seizures. I was rushed to the hospital. I blacked out. I could tell you that when I blacked out May 11th, I finally kind of like realized and woke up the end of June.
Wow.
So I was out for a month. I was in a coma for 2 weeks. I had swelling in my brain, swelling in my body. I guess they called it a hemothrombosis.
Wow.
So it was a stroke on the right side of my head. So I had tubes up my nose, 3 in my head, drainage. They had to cut out part of my skull. So that was like just to release the pressure.
Right.
I was connected to a machine for about 2 months.
Wow.
So during that time, I don't know what's going on. But my mom, she writes in this notebook, and I've read it a couple times, and it's kind of like the story of what happened during that time. A lot of people came out to visit me. People I didn't know, friends, family. We had people from Mexico fly out to see me.
Wow.
Pastors. Not everyone was of the faith, and some were. And the hard thing was, even people who are of the faith would question, why is she sick if she follows God? Why are you guys still so faithful if look at what God did? God put her in this bed. God harmed her. God doesn't want to give her a kidney. God doesn't want to heal her.
Wow. Just like totally pushing and testing. Wow.
Yeah. So it really did break down my family for sure. I can say that this part of my life is not just that something I live with, but it's something my family has to live with. And we've grown from it.
Yeah.
So definitely we were in the hospital for a while. I was receiving dialysis in the machine.
Do you like remember much of when you came out of coma, or?
I was in and out. I was on a lot of medication. So I used to believe the machine was a person. So I was caught talking to the machine a lot.
Oh boy, yeah.
And I was like, meet my friend Jerry. And my mom's like, that's a machine. I'm like, no, it's my friend Jerry. So I was in and out of the.
Oh man, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But during that time though, I had people from Midway, from Little Village, from Oak Lawn, just different friends that I have from different churches come out and see me, sing to me, read to me.
Wow.
Do I remember of it? None of it. Tongue twisted. Do I remember any of it? No, I do not. Yeah. But my mom did take videos of it. So that was truly a blessing to look at.
Wow.
So from the hospital, somewhere in July, I was moved to a physical therapy facility. So I was a month out there. I had to learn how to talk, walk, eat, move my hands, and just the basic stuff. I couldn't even swallow
Wow.
because I was on a feeding tube for like 3 months.
Yeah. Wow.
So it was definitely a struggle.
Yeah.
During that time in the hospital, I would cry a lot and yell. I would yell at God. I would cry and say, why does God want me like this? Why does God want me in bed? Why does he want me sick? Why is he not healing me? The same thing that other people were questioning, I was questioning myself. I called up my old mentor and I called her and I just started bawling because I'm like, I did everything for God. I was in the kids ministry. I served him. I danced for him. I went on missionary trips for him. I did everything that he's asked. Why is he now not giving me what I want?
Wow.
So, she started crying with me, my parents crying with me. But my heart had hardened at that time. I was still living that double life of like, my parents were like, praise God, he's healing you, because in August of 2017, I was released of the hospital.
Wow.
I was in a wheelchair, but I was back at home.
And this is on dialysis still?
On dialysis still, yes.
Wow.
So definitely, my family was like, this is a blessing. He brought you out of it.
Wow.
And I had to put on the fake face of like, oh yeah, he got me. But I came out very mad, very angry, hard heart. I would lash out at people a lot. Now I don't see mean. I'm like, very nice. I love people. But I would really lash out at like my siblings and my parents and just random people. I had no filter. I was just
really angry.
I was just so angry at God.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God, how long? It's been years and I'm still sick. I just came out of something tremendous and yet you still won't heal me.
Wow.
So I lived with that for about a year. And we started retesting in the beginning of 2019.
Wow.
For a kidney.
Yeah.
And actually they called me on my birthday in 2019 in September. They called me on my birthday and they said, hey, your mom is a match. She can give you a kidney.
Wow.
And I was like, hold up. What? Like, I could not believe it. I was like, you're kidding, right? Because I've already been tricked. And they're like, no, we tested it. Everything looks great. Your blood is completely clean. It's not rejecting your mom. I'm like, but it rejected her before. They're like, I don't even know what's going on. But you're able to get a kidney from your mom.
Wow.
Your body is accepting it like 100%. And I was like crying that day. And I was like, oh my gosh, God is actually doing something here. And right away, we started praying.
Wow.
We started sharing it with everyone. I think I saw a glimpse of what God was doing. I started accepting that, hey, God is working on me, but God is not working on me on my time. He works on his time alone. It's, and then a month later, in October 23rd, 2019, I got my kidney transplant.
Wow.
So I'm 4 years now with a new kidney from my mom.
So cool. Wow.
So yeah, I definitely saw God shine through.
Yeah.
He granted me something beautiful and precious, but I had to go through a trial because it was a time to see, will I fail and will I walk away from the faith, or will I stay strong and turn to God and know that he's going to manifest through this?
Wow. What was your like family's response? I mean,
we were jumping for joy. I couldn't eat what was it? I think it was salami. I really wanted a salami sandwich. And I couldn't for the longest. So the day before the transplant, they got me a salami sandwich.
Oh my God.
And I thought that was the best thing because they're like, it's okay. Your kidneys, it doesn't matter. You're getting a new one.
Wow.
So I went all for it and I got a salami sandwich.
Wow. You just indulged right before. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's, so beautiful to see like you sitting here healthy, loving life. I mean, thriving. You're not even that whole tension between even the hypocritical kind of lifestyle. I mean, I don't want to like directly ask you, like, oh, how's that going? But
no, now that it's taken time. It has. And every year I'm growing from it because I have to reflect back on who I was and how I was living.
Yeah.
Who I am and how I want to be led now by God. It's definitely very difficult.
Yeah.
That is very difficult to share with people because they all saw me as this perfect Christian girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now the pastor's daughter. And I'm like, I don't want that title. But, you know, God manifested through those trials because he showed me that I will allow something to happen. God doesn't harm us. He allows. He allows things to happen because he's going to manifest and he's going to show his power and love through those trials. I saw the love of people around me who I was being shady to, who I was living a double life to. They come to me on their knees, praying to me.
Praying for you.
Praying for me.
Yeah. Not praying to you. English, it's hard.
Tongue twisted. Yeah. All right. Praying for me. I'm so sorry.
You're fine. Just keep going.
Okay. Praying for me and worshiping to God that he's going to allow me to come out of this.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say are some like perspectives or a perspective that you kind of gained looking back on this part of your story?
It took a while. I had to think about that when I saw the question. It all came together yesterday. I was in service and Pastor Josiah was preaching and he said, many people will worship God, but do not submit to him. And I thought, man, I worshiped God like for years. I lived my life for him. I did everything for him. But I did not submit. I did not let go of the things he asked me to. I held on to them because I'm like, God, I love you so much, but don't take away this yet because I'm not ready. And through this, I had to let go of everything. Through this illness, through this accident, I had to let go of everything that I held close.
You had no control.
I had to let go of my job. I had to let go of school. I had to let go of friends.
Yeah.
So I could see that, hey, it's not you, the world, and me. It's you and me. The walk that you're doing is between you and me. It's not your family and your friends that you could bring along. He's like, when I call you, I call you. So I had to learn that. I definitely learned, I always say, it's not on my time, it's on God's time.
Yeah.
And God definitely calls us sometimes even in the lowest of our lows. We could be, I don't know, stuck somewhere really bad in life, making bad decisions and thinking, this is how it ends.
Yeah.
God wants me here because he wants me here. And God doesn't put you there. He doesn't put you there for a reason. There has to be a reason.
Yeah.
And the reason is he wants to show you, hey, you may be down low, you may be stuck, but I'm going to pull through. I'm going to pull you through it because I want to show other people how I saved your life. Wow. God shines through us, When I tell my girls at my group, I'm like, when you live for Christ, you should be living for Christ where people can identify, hey, there's something different about that person.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but there's something different. And that differentness is Jesus. The uniqueness that we live our lives That's God through us.
Yeah, and I think even looking at your story, it's painful. There's painful moments. Not just like physically, but emotionally wrestling with those questions. Where is God? What is He?
Yeah.
Why isn't He saving me from this? And the response that we have in hard moments of our lives, I think, really either can directly point to Jesus as
Mhm.
Him being our strength and our comfort, our peace during those horrible, really rough times, or it can be like, "How dare you?" and "How come you didn't do this?" and the whys and "How come?" and, I think that that's so that's so true what you said is, like, the submitting to God part and trusting that His character will always remain true even when all our life circumstances are all over the place and up and down. So it's so cool to see, and it's really beautiful because I see God through your story.
Mhm.
I see how He, carried you, even your family. I could only imagine what your parents were thinking and feeling
And this
when
all
you're laying there
happened.
in the hospital.
Well, this all happened, it's funny, this all happened a month after opening up Nueva Vida Blue Island. My parents had
Wow.
just become the pastor, and a month after, this happened. I do
Wow.
see it as, the enemy was trying to get there between our family, and he
Mhm.
says, "The only way I can get to them is through their daughter, and I'm gonna cause something really bad so that it could shake their faith." But my parents were very faithful no matter what. The amount of people that were supportive, that were there to pray with them, that were sending messages, it it was encouragement.
Yeah,
It was
really to see the
love.
church be the
The
church.
the church,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
definitely. And it wasn't just our church.
Right, right.
It was New Life.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah,
was our families, our friends, the people of the church are our family,
yeah,
and they were there with us through
yeah,
this.
yeah. What would you say are, like, what even if, I don't know if you had one, but looking back and thinking of those times in your life that might have been like, "Oh, I don't fully remember that," or "It's a little blurry for me there." What do you see of God's character and truly know in your heart of hearts after this encounter and after all of this, searching and just that whole situation? What parts of God did you really discover and you truly know now in your heart?
I discovered love and peace, honestly.
Mm,
Um, at the time, I didn't know it, but God brought so much peace to my heart.
mm,
He allowed this to happen because it was the only way he could have me be still so that he could talk to me.
mm.
I remember telling my mom, I'm like, "Did I ever tell you that I felt like I was having a conversation with God while I was asleep?" I say asleep, but I was in
Yeah,
a coma.
yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I was telling her, it's funny. I was having a conversation with God during that time, and I was asking him, "So why did you allow this?" And all I could remember was just God saying, "Be still." He's like, "I know what I'm doing." He's like, "If you
Mm,
have faith in me, you will leave it alone and let me work through this."
mm,
And he did because, one of the verses that I remember when I was a little girl in Awana, one of the first verses I learned was Psalms 23, 2 to 5, I believe.
mm,
And the part where even though I walk through the valley of shadows, I fear no evil.
mm,
And I was in the lowest of lows. I mean, God had me there for a reason.
mm,
I can honestly say I was told that there were moments that my heart rate and everything would drop, and they were like, "We don't know if she's gonna make it through the night."
wow.
They're like, "Maybe we should." Even the doctors were very skeptical, and they would say, "She's not gonna make it, so you guys better say your goodbyes." And my
Wow.
parents were so faithful, and they had so much love for God that they were like, "No, she'll be okay. She's gonna be fine."
Mm,
And no matter what, they kept praying, they kept worshiping the Lord because they knew he was so good and he
mm,
was gonna allow me to come back. And he did. And it's not just he uses me to touch other people's.
mm.
That's what it is. I was able to impact some people who didn't know Christ and came to the hospital to visit me. And
Wow.
they said, "We see Vida's life. we see how she loves the Lord. We see how much passion she has when she dances for the Lord. They're like, and if God pulls her through, we know that there's a real, true God. And
then you pulled through.
I pulled through. I was like, I'm going to hold you to that.
Yeah, there is a God.
There is. And, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's beautiful. What, how has that experience helped you live different now? You've experienced God's deep love and affection for you. You've experienced his peace. So how has those experiences sort of impacted how you live today and how you love people and do ministry and work?
No. I mean, yeah. I live life very grateful every day. I take advantage of everything, It's funny. My mom is like, aren't you? Because I'll be like, oh, I want to go skydiving. And she's like, aren't you afraid that, you might get hurt and stuff? I'm like, God got me. I got this. And I'm like, and she's like, okay, take it easy. She's like, let's start at an easy level. Yeah. And I'm like, okay. So, God blessing me through being able to go on some trips. And on those trips, I'm able to share the faith with other people as well. He recently this year has very much given me the opportunity to broaden my friendship. Because during that time, I could say I secluded myself. I did not want to be friends with anyone. I shut out the world. I was just angry. And even as I started coming back to God and like living for him, I was still like, I don't want to be friends with that person because I know I'm hypocritical. I don't want to be that person that says no to God. I don't want to be that person that rejects the blessing that he's allowing. So I started attending crossover here, Midway, about a year ago. And it wasn't by my choice. My mom forced me.
She said, go to the young adults
25 and she was forcing me to come. And of course, like the 25 I was, I got upset and I said, no, I don't want to go. And I went to my room. But no, I did come. And everybody was just so nice. And I could see how much God was here. And I learned from other people around me. Everybody has a story. Everybody has had God impact them in one way or another, whether it was in their lows, whether it was in a regular day just walking on the street.
Yeah.
I mean, God was manifesting through all of them. And I kept thinking, maybe it's just me. Like I kept thinking, God only did this to me. Everybody else is perfect here, but nobody's perfect. I had to learn that the hard way. Nobody at a church is perfect because a church is like a hospital. All the broken are here.
Yeah,
I think that's a song.
Yeah, I mean, it might be, but that's also like a pastor's phrase.
Oh, okay.
Like my dad says that.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll have to hear that sermon.
Pastor Chewy? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You have the last thought.
I can't remember. I lost my train of thought.
Well, I just want to say I'm so glad that you're sitting here. I'm glad that you're able to tell your story, that you as the listeners hopefully feel inspired and even on like in a hospital bed, in a coma, going in and out, waiting for a miracle to happen, like God was there, And I think that's such an encouragement and something to hold on to today is that whether you're going through a crisis like that, or you're having an argument with a friend, or you're having trouble at work, God is there. He's present. He cares about your situation and your friendship and your relationships. And I think that your story is a testimony to that God is present and he cares,
and God will work at his timing though.
Yeah.
So
in his time. And that means releasing control, right?
Yes.
Like letting go of, and that's so hard for us humans to do.
Letting go of that friendship, letting go of that job, maybe letting go of that situation in your life that's holding you back from submitting fully to God.
Yeah. What, on that note, what encouragement would you give to those listening who may be feeling like similar ways, maybe feeling like, man, I'm just discouraged, or why God, why haven't you done this yet? And why aren't you coming through for me? And where are you? What kind of encouragement would you give to someone who may be having those feelings?
Definitely seek out people who are of the same faith. Because when you try to get advice from people who probably don't know God, they're going to give you the words you want, not the words you need to hear.
Mm,
And of someone of faith, I reached out to a couple people and they did tell me, you're going to have to go through this. They said it plain to my face. You're going to have to go through this, but you don't have to go through this alone.
mm,
You have friends that are there to help you, to give you the word, to walk with you, mentor you. People who are going through these situations, don't isolate yourself. I could
mm,
say that by experience.
mm,
Isolating yourself is the worst because it opens a door for the enemy to try to get in
mm,
and, you know, play around with your emotions and the way you think. So definitely be in the word, get involved,
mm,
and find someone that you can truly get words of encouragement from.
mm.
Or as my mom says, words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom. So
No, I love that. That's so good. Thank you. Thank you
thank
for being
you.
here. Thank you for
No, thank
sharing
you
your
for
story. I mean, it's always uncomfortable to share those parts of you that are good and bad and the past and how you've grown,
I
but
thought I was gonna cry, but I didn't. Makeup's still good.
well, we hope that this was encouraging to you. Feel free to reach out to Vidalia, either at Blue Island or Midway. Ask her more about her story. There's tons more stories that she's told me that have been really inspiring and encouraging. So hopefully this episode was encouraging, and we can't wait to be back with another episode of People at New Life.